Valora Prime was a small and peaceful planet. The Valorans were a gentle species. Short, with soft gray skin and large dark eyes, they lived simple lives, farming, building small homes, raising their children under the planet's twin suns. There had never been war on Valora Prime, not until now. The attack came without warning. At first, people thought it was a meteor shower. Streaks of fire filled the sky, but soon, the truth became clear. Enemy ships broke through the clouds, black and sharp, like knives, thousands of them. Buildings exploded, fields burned, Valoran civilians ran for their lives. Mothers grabbed their children, farmers grabbed whatever tools they could find to defend themselves. But tools were useless against plasma cannons. The Dravic Dominion had arrived. The Dravic were cruel, powerful, and feared across the stars. And Valora Prime had no defense. In a small underground shelter near the capital city, a group of Valoran leaders gathered. Governor Levick, an old male with shaking hands, stood at the front. "We have to send a distress call," he said, voice trembling. "But who will answer?" another leader asked. Levick swallowed hard. "I don't know, but if we do nothing, we all die here." The room fell silent. Everyone knew it was true. A young Valoran technician, Rolly, sat at the old communication console. The equipment was outdated. It barely worked. Rolly's hands shook as he activated the long-range beacon. He tuned it to open frequency, sending the same message again and again. "This is Valora Prime. We are under attack. Civilian population, we have no defenses. Please, anyone, help us." He repeated the words until his voice broke. Then he switched to an automated loop. The signal echoed into deep space. The Valorans could only hope that someone, anyone, was listening. Far across the galaxy, on Earth, inside the United Terran Defense Command Center, a light blinked on a console. Lieutenant Sarah Monroe was drinking coffee at her desk when the console beeped. She frowned. Another false alarm, but when she opened the file, her heart stopped. "Sir, you need to see this," she shouted. General Marcus Carter turned from the holomap. "What is it?" "A distress signal from outside Terran-controlled space. Unknown source, but heavily encrypted, non-human language." But repeating the same pattern. Carter walked over. He listened to the static-filled recording. Then the translation AI kicked in. "This is Valora Prime. We are under attack. Please, help us." The room fell silent. Carter narrowed his eyes. Location. Sarah pulled up the coordinates. Outer fringe, near the Dravic Dominion borders. The name made everyone freeze. The Dravic were known slavers, planet killers. Carter rubbed his chin. "No wonder they're begging for help." Another officer spoke. "Sir, this isn't our jurisdiction. The council won't approve intervention." Carter didn't blink. "I don't care what the council approves." The room stared at him. Carter stepped toward the main operations console. "Prep Fleet Group Omega, alert Admiral Reyes. I want our ships fueled and armed." Sarah hesitated. "Sir, are you serious?" Carter turned. "When innocent people scream for help, humanity answers." He paused, then added with a cold smile, "And we answer loud." In orbit over Earth, the Iron Shield Armada began mobilizing. Massive battleships, missile cruisers, heavy destroyers, fast attack frigates, carriers loaded with fighters, over 100 warships in total. Inside the largest flagship, the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge. Her face showed no emotion. She was known for being calm, even under fire. "Set course for Valora Prime," she ordered. Officers scrambled to obey. Pilots climbed into cockpits. Marines loaded weapons. Engineers checked reactor cores. As the fleet engines powered up, the stars around Earth shimmered. One by one, ships entered hyperspace, a wall of steel and fire, heading for Valora Prime. Meanwhile, back on Valora Prime, things were getting worse. The Dravic ground forces landed. Large metal walkers stomped across cities. Dr. Abbo Casilda's tool, reptilian, and armored marched through the streets. They pulled civilians from homes. Anyone who resisted was shot on sight. Governor Levesque stood with a small group of survivors inside a mountain cave. He watched smoke rise over the city. "We can't hide much longer," he said quietly. A young Valoran named Tira shook her head. "Governor, the signal, it's still broadcasting." Levick closed his eyes. "Let's hope someone hears us before it's too late." Inside hyperspace, on board the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes stood beside General Carter. The general had personally joined the mission. "This isn't going to be easy," Carter said. Reyes nodded. "We've never fought the Dravic directly before." Carter crossed his arms. "First time for everything." An officer called out from the sensor station. "Sir, Approaching drop point. Valora Prime system in 30 seconds. Carter's voice went steady. All ships, weapons hot, shields up. Prepare for immediate engagement, Reyes added. No holding back. Full combat deployment. The Earth fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Right into the heart of the battle. Enemy ships orbited Valora Prime. Dozens of Dravik frigates and assault cruisers. They didn't expect humans, but now they saw Earth's full war fleet appear in the sky. The Dravik hesitated. Then Earth opened. Fire railguns roared. Missiles screamed. Energy beams sliced through Dravik formations. Earth fighters launched, diving into the chaos, blasting enemy drones apart. The TDS Vengeance led the charge. Other Earth ships followed, tearing through the enemy blockade. Inside the mountain caves, Valoran survivors stared at the sky. For the first time, they saw flashes of blue and gold light. Earth weapons striking enemy ships. Terra whispered. Who are they? Governor Levick's voice cracked. I don't know. But they came. On the Valiant, one of the lead Earth destroyers, Commander Alex Mercer stood on the bridge. He pointed at the screen. Target those landing craft near the surface. Hit them before they deploy more troops. The ship's cannons fired. Enemy transports exploded mid-air. Down below, the Dravik forces on the ground looked up, just in time to see their reinforcements vanish in fireballs. Earth Marines began dropping to the surface in drop-dash pods. Within minutes, Earth soldiers hit the ground, guns ready. Charging into the streets, Dravik troops turned to face this new enemy. But Earth Marines fought like demons. For the first time, the Dravik knew fear. Inside the command center on the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes watched the battle report's status. She asked. The operations officer answered. Enemy fleet breaking apart. Ground forces still active, but losing coordination. General Carter smiled grimly. Good. He turned to the comms officer. Open a channel. Full broadcast. The officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Carter leaned forward. His voice filled every radio frequency across the system. This is General Marcus Carter of the United Terran Defense Command. To the people of Valora Prime. We heard your call. We are here. Hold the line. Help has arrived. Inside the mountain cave, Governor Levick heard the broadcast. His hands trembled, for the first time in days. He smiled. Tira cried softly. The people around her cheered. Hope returned as the Earth fleet pushed forward, and the Dravik scrambled. To retreat or regroup, one thing became clear to everyone watching from above or below. When humanity answers a distress call, they answer with warships, and they do not come quietly. Space burned with light. Earth's fleet had arrived, and they came with fire. The Iron Shield Armada, hundreds of human warships, opened fire on the Dravik fleet surrounding Valora Prime. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the TDS Vengeance, eyes locked on the battle screen. Focus all heavy cannons on the enemy flagship, she ordered. Massive Earth railguns spun and charged on seconds. Bright streaks of metal tore through space, slamming into the enemy cruiser. The Dravik flagship buckled, fire bursting from its sides. On board the Valiant, Commander Alex Mercer paced the bridge. Target their flanking ships, he said. Don't let them surround us. Lieutenant Harper nodded. Yes, sir. The Valiant's side batteries roared, ripping to Dravik frigates apart. The enemy tried to scatter. Some turned to flee, but Earth's fleet stayed on them. Missiles chased retreating ships. Fighter squadrons hunted down stragglers across space. Earth warships formed a moving wall, pushing the Dravok fleet further and further away from Valora Prime. On the ground, Earth Marines stormed through the streets of the Valoran capital. Sergeant Ramos kicked open a door, blasting to Dravok. Soldiers inside. Clear, he shouted. Behind him, more Marines entered, helping Valoran civilians trapped in buildings. A young Valoran mother clutched her child as two Marines carried her to safety. Above, Earth dropships moved in waves, dropping more soldiers, food supplies, and medics. Civilians stared up, tears in their eyes. Terra, the young Valoran from the shelter, ran out into the street when she saw the human soldiers. You came, she shouted. One Marine smiled, patting her shoulder. That's what we do. Inside the TDS Vengeance, General Carter watched the battle progress. He turned to the communications officer. Status of enemy reinforcements. The officer checked. The scans, sir. Long-range sensors show more Dravok ships incoming. Estimated arrival. For hours. Carter's jaw tightened. So this is just round one. Reyes looked over. We'll be ready. Carter nodded. Prep the next strike wave. Reload all ships. Reyes gave new orders. Fighter wings. Return and refuel. Capital ships. Focus on perimeter control. I want every approach path locked down. Aboard the Valiant, Alex Mercer studied the tactical map. Lieutenant, show me weak points in the enemy lines. Harper pulled up the data. Sir, looks like their communication relays are still active near their rear guard. Alex's eyes narrowed. If we knock that out, they won't coordinate there. Next wave, he grabbed the Valiant to Fleet Command, requesting permission for strike run on enemy relay ships. Carter's voice answered, permission granted. Hit them hard. Alex smiled. That's the plan. The Valiant, followed by 2 smaller Terran frigates, broke formation and surged toward the enemy rear lines. Enemy ships scrambled to block their path. Late Earth's destroyers moved fast. The Valiant launched a barrage of plasma torpedoes. The first enemy relay ship exploded instantly. The second tried to power shields, but Earth's railguns punched through. Communications across the Dravik fleet began breaking apart. Enemy captains shouted confused orders. Some ships began retreating again. In orbit, Admiral Reyes watched the enemy formation fall into chaos. Perfect, she said. She turned to Carter. Now, we take the fight straight to their command core. Carter agreed. All ships, full advance, no holding back. Earth's fleet charged. On Valora Prime's surface, Valoran survivors climbed out of shelters. They watched the bright streaks of Earth ships racing across the sky. Governor Levick, standing with other leaders, turned to the people. Today, the stars answered our call, he said. Terra stood beside him, smiling for the first time in days. Hours later, the first wave of Dravik invaders had been crushed. Wrecked enemy ships drifted in orbit. Dravik ground forces scattered, running for cover. Inside the Valiant, Alex received new orders. Prepare for second contact, Carter said over the fleet channel. More Dravik ships incoming. Alex nodded. Then let's finish what we started. The crew of the Valiant cheered. Fight for Valora Prime wasn't over. But Earth had proven one thing. They didn't just come to help. They came to win, and they were just getting started. The space above Valora Prime was quiet for only a few hours. Wreckage from the first battle still floated like metal corpses. Fires burned on drifting Dravik ships. But deep in space, the real danger was getting closer. On the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge. Her officers moved quickly around her, scanning new signals. Report, she said. A young officer turned pale. Admiral, long-range sensors show a second Dravik fleet, bigger than the first. 4 times the size. General Carter stepped forward. When will they arrive? The officer swallowed. 17 minutes. The entire command deck went silent. Reyes clenched her fists. Then we fight again. Carter's voice turned hard. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. Sirens echoed across every Earth ship. Pilots ran toward fighters. Marines grabbed weapons. Engineers sprinted through engine rooms. On the Valiant, Commander Alex Mercer stared at the new fleet readings. Harper's voice shook slightly. Sir, that's a lot of enemy ships. Alex smiled grimly. Good. Gives us more to shoot at. Down on Valora Prime's surface, Earth Marines scrambled into defensive positions. Sergeant Ramos barked orders. Dig in. Set up heavy guns. Cover the civilians. Valoran civilians, still scared but hopeful, helped build barricades. Tira worked beside human engineers, setting up energy shields around the shelters. She looked at the sky. Faint lights began to appear. The new enemy fleet was arriving. Voice cracked. They're back. Governor Levick stood beside her, but so are the humans. The second wave of Dravik ships dropped out of hyperspace. Hundreds of warships, carriers, destroyers, drone, swarm launchers. Their hulls gleamed black and red. Their weapons charged. The enemy wasn't going to retreat this time. They wanted total destruction. On the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes gave the first order. Fire all long-range batteries. The first line of Earth warships opened fire. Railgun slugs, missile, salvos, laser beams. The void of space lit up like a storm. Dravik ships returned fire. Explosions ripped through the battlefield. One Earth frigate took a direct hit, breaking apart. In a flash of light, 2 Dravik cruisers exploded soon after, thanks to Earth torpedo strikes. On the Valiant, Alex Mercer stayed calm. Target their drone carriers first, he ordered. The crew obeyed. The Valiant's main cannons roared. 2 enemy carriers burst into flame. But still, more enemy drones launched, small, fast, and deadly. They swarmed toward Earth's ships like angry wasps. Earth's point defense guns opened up. Fighter pilots from Earth weaved through the clouds of enemy drones, blasting them apart. But the ship number was overwhelming. On several decks of the Valiant, impact alarms rang. Shields down to 70%. Harper called out, "Keep firing." Alex yelled. He grabbed the comms. "All remaining fighters, protect the Vengeance. If we lose the flagship, we lose this war." Meanwhile, in orbit, the TDS Vengeance took heavy hits. Dravik plasma beams burned across its shields, hull plates buckled. General Carter stood, gripping the rail. "We can't hold this position forever," Reyes said through gritted teeth. Carter nodded. "Then we push forward." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is General Carter. Earth fleet full. Offensive push. No retreat, no surrender." Earth ships surged forward. Cruisers rammed enemy destroyers at point-blank range. Fighters dived between wrecks, launching last-second torpedoes. Boarding pods from Earth slammed into enemy hulls, sending Marines to fight inside Dravok ships. Inside one enemy cruiser, Earth Marines fought through dark hallways. Sergeant Ramos led his squad, blasting Dravok soldiers with pulse rifles. "We take out their engines and get out," he shouted. The Marines planted explosives near the reactor core and ran for their dropship behind them. The enemy ship exploded, adding more fire to the space battlefield. On Valora Prime's surface, Tira and other Valorans cheered as burning enemy ships fell from orbit, but their cheers stopped when new Dravok dropships entered the atmosphere. "Ground assault incoming," Earthcoms warned. Ramos and his team barely made it back to the surface in time. Earth Marines, exhausted but determined, took defensive positions around the shelters. Dravik soldiers landed. Fierce ground fighting began again. Plasma blasts lit up the streets. Human Marines fought side by side with Valoran civilians. One Valoran farmer used a captured Dravik plasma rifle, fighting next to Earth soldiers. Tira picked up a fallen Marine's sidearm, firing at enemy drones that got too close. Back in orbit, Admiral Reyes checked the battle map. Enemy losses were high, but Earth's losses were growing too. Several destroyers had gone dark. Carrier support was limited. Carter turned to her. "Not giving up," he said. Reyes nodded. "We're going to break their center line." She pointed at the tactical map. "Focus all fire on their command ship. If we take out their leadership, the rest will scatter." Carter grinned. "That's why you're in charge." On the Valiant, Alex received the new orders. "Helm, take us straight toward the enemy flagship," he said. Harper blinked. "Sir, that's suicide." Alex smiled. "Only if we miss." The Valiant, already damaged, pushed full speed toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Dravik ships opened fire. Missiles and plasma beams tore through space. The Valiant's shields dropped to 30%, then 20%. Still, the ship kept going. Fighter wings followed behind, covering their advance at point-blank range. The Valiant's forward railguns fired. Direct hit. The Drava command ship cracked apart, explosions racing down its spine. For a moment, everything stopped. Then, the enemy fleet broke formation. Without leadership, the Dravik forces started retreating. One by one, they jumped back into hyperspace. Some didn't make it. Earth fighters hunted down the stragglers. By the end of the hour, only debris remained. Inside the TDS Vengeance, Carter let out a slow breath. "Is it over?" an officer asked. Reyes shook her head. "For now." On the Valiant, Alex slumped into his chair, breathing hard. Harper smiled weakly. "We're still here, sir." Alex nodded. "Yeah, still here." Down on the surface, Valoran civilians cheered. Governor Levick stood with Tira and others, watching the sky clear for the first time in days. Tira looked up. "Do you think they'll come back?" Levick stayed quiet, then answered maybe. But, in his heart he knew this: if the Dravik dared return, Earth's fleet would be waiting, and next time, humanity would hit back even harder. The air inside the TDS Vengeance smelled of metal, oil, and burnt electronics. Damaged crews worked around the clock. Fires were out, hull breaches patched, but scars from the last battle remained. Admiral Reyes stood over the holographic star map. General Carter stood beside her. "Enemy fleet is gone," Carter said, voice low. "For now." Reyes pointed at the map. "We can't just sit and wait for their next wave." Carter nodded. "We take the fight to them." Every officer in the room stopped and looked up. Carter continued, his voice hard. "We're not going to wait for another invasion. We're going after the back into their space." The room fell silent. Everyone understood the risk. Dravik territory was deep and dangerous. No human fleet had ever entered that far. But Earth had no choice. On the Valiant, Commander Alex Mercer reviewed the new orders. Harper read aloud, eyes wide. "We're striking back at their frontier stations." Alex smiled coldly. "About time." The fleet began preparations. Earth engineers worked overtime. Ammo was restocked, fuel tanks refilled, wounded soldiers rested. but only for a few hours. Fighter pilots checked their ships. Marines cleaned weapons. Everyone knew they might not come back, but no one complained. Not after what they saw on Valora Prime. On the ground, Earth soldiers helped the Valorans rebuild emergency shelters. Sergeant Ramos organized supply drops. Children from the Valoran shelters waved at Earth Marines. Terra stood beside Governor Levick, watching the human soldiers load back into transports. "You're leaving already?" she asked softly. Ramos knelt beside her. "We stopped them for now, but we need to make sure they don't come back." Terra's eyes filled with tears. "Will you come back?" Ramos smiled. "If we survive." "Yeah." The fleet gathered in high orbit. 100 Earth warships. The Iron Shield Armada, now scarred, but still dangerous. General Carter stood on the fleet-wide comms channel. "This is for Valora Prime," he said, "and every other world the Dravik have heard." He paused, then added, "Remember this, we're humanity. We don't run, we hit back." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Stars stretched and disappeared. Destination, Dravik Frontier Space. Hours later, the Earth fleet emerged near a Dravik industrial system. 5 enemy space stations. Fuel depots. Shipyards. Communications hubs. Enemy sensors detected the human fleet instantly. Dravik commanders scrambled to respond. Too late. Admiral Reyes wasted no time. All ships opened fire. The first target, a large Dravik fuel station orbiting a red dwarf star. Earth's long-range railguns fired. Massive shells tore through the station. Explosions rippled across its structure. Dravik fighters launched to intercept Earth. Fighter wings countered. Dogfights filled the void. Missiles crisscrossed space. Enemy stations tried to bring their cannons online, but Earth's cruisers moved fast. Guided torpedoes smashed enemy defense turrets. Dravik ships burst apart. Commander Alex Mercer led a strike run toward the largest enemy shipyard. The Valiant dodged plasma beams, returning fire with everything it had. Close behind, 3 Earth destroyers joined the charge. "Target their dry docks," Alex ordered. Explosions lit the sky. Partially built Dravik warships burned before they could ever launch. Earth Marines deployed boarding teams onto the main Dravik command station. Inside, Sergeant Ramos led his squad through enemy hallways. They fought Dravik soldiers room by room. Grenades exploded. Pulse rifles fired. Hand-to-hand combat broke out in tight corridors. Ramos kicked down the control room door. "Clear," he shouted. The Marines planted demolition charges on the station's power core. As they retreated back to their dropships, the entire station exploded behind them. Across the sector, chaos spread. Dravik command channels lit up with panic. Human warships struck without hesitation. Enemy communications blacked out. Fuel shortages began. Dravik reinforcements were hours away, but they wouldn't arrive in time. By the end of the assault, 4 enemy stations were destroyed. The 5th left burning and drifting. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the TDS Vengeance, watching the final blasts on the main screen. "Status?" she asked. An officer smiled. "All targets neutralized." Admiral Carter nodded with grim satisfaction. "That'll send a message," Reyes agreed. "They wanted war, now they have it." As the fleet regrouped, Carter gave new orders. "We head back to Valora Prime. Make sure the survivors are safe." Alex, on the Valiant, gave the final fleet-wide broadcast. "This is Commander Mercer to all units. Mission accomplished. Let's bring our people home." The fleet jumped again, leaving behind a wrecked enemy sector. Meanwhile, deep inside, Dravik High Command, enemy leaders watched the battle reports. A Dravik warlord slammed his fist against the table. "The Deathworlders, they came into our space, destroyed our stations, and escaped unharmed." Another Dravik leader hissed, "We underestimated them." The room went silent. The warlord finally spoke again. "Next time, we won't. But for now, Earth had won, and humanity had shown the galaxy something new. If you call for help, Earth answers with warships, and when humanity strikes back, they don't stop until the enemy burns." The victory over the Dravik frontier felt good. For a few days, Earth's fleet returned to Valora Prime as heroes. Civilians cheered Valoran. Children waved at human soldiers. Marines handed out food and supplies. Governor Levick personally thanked General Carter and Admiral Reyes. Terra hugged Sergeant Ramos before he boarded the dropship back to orbit. "You saved us," he whispered. Ramos smiled. "That's what we do, but far away." In the dark heart of Dravik space, the enemy prepared their revenge. Inside a massive Dravik war chamber, the warlord stood before hundreds of his commanders. Screens showed the destruction Earth had caused. Wrecked stations, dead soldiers, fires still burning. The warlord roared. "They humiliated us. They burned our stations. They killed our people. His fist slammed down. Now we burn theirs. The room filled with growls and cheers. Orders were given. A new fleet was prepared. This time, it wouldn't just be soldiers, that it would be a full invasion force at their target. Earth's outer colonies near the Terran border. Inside the TDS Vengeance, General Carter reviewed new enemy movement reports. Admiral Reyes stood beside him. Dravik, fleet massing near their core worlds, she said. Do we have their target? Carter asked. Reyes shook her head. Not yet, but they're mobilizing fast. Sensors picked up enemy fleet formations. Dozens of cruisers, newer warships, heavy troop carriers. The enemy was serious this time. Carter clenched his jaw. Alert Earth Defense Command. Tell them something big is coming. 2 days later, the Dravak fleet jumped into Terran border space. Their first target, Epsilon Eridani II, a small human colony world. The planet was mostly farmland and mining stations. Population 20,000 civilians. Earth's main fleet was still near Valora Prime. The colony only had light defense platforms and a small garrison of Earth Marines. Captain Laura Chen commanded the orbital defense station when she saw the Dravak ships appear. On her screens, her heart dropped. Sound full alert. She shouted. Fighter squadrons launched. Missiles fired, but the Dravak fleet was too large. Enemy plasma beams tore through orbital stations. The small Earth garrison fought bravely on the ground, but the Dravak overwhelmed them. Civilians ran for underground shelters. Captain Chen sent one last message before her station exploded, to Earth Command. Epsilon Eridani is under full assault, requesting immediate reinforcement. The signal cut out. Back on the TDS Vengeance, Carter heard the news. A deep silence filled the command center. Damn it, Carter muttered. He turned to Reyes. We need to move. Now. Reyes nodded. Fleet status. All ships ready. Fighters refueled. Ammo stocked. Carter stood. Then Plotter jumped to Epsilon Eridani, fastest route. On the Valiant, Commander Alex Mercer received the orders. Harper looked up from her console. Sir, this is it. They're hitting our people now. Alex's face hardened. Then let's make them regret it. The Iron Shield Armada jumped. Stars stretched, engines roared. Earth's fleet rushed toward their colony under siege. Epsilon Eridani II. The situation grew worse. Dr. Abok troops landed in waves. Civilians were dragged from shelters. Buildings burned. Children cried. The small Marine garrison fought street by street. Sergeant Keller, leading the last surviving Marines, held a defensive line near the central colony hub. Bullets ran low. Energy packs drained. Keller wiped blood from his face and looked at his men. We're not giving up, he growled. One Marine laughed bitterly. Surrounded, Keller loaded his last magazine. Good. Saves us the trouble of finding them. Then, just when hope seemed lost, the sky split open. Dozens of Earth warships dropped out of hyperspace. The TDS Vengeance led the charge. Earth fighters screamed through the atmosphere. Missile trails cut across the sky. Dravak anti-air guns opened fire, but the humans came fast. And low. Inside his fighter, Lieutenant Vega grinned. Let's clean house. Earth bombers targeted Dravak ground positions. Buildings occupied by enemy troops exploded. Earth Marines dropped from orbit in heavy landing pods. Sergeant Ramos, back on the front line, led his squad out of their pod. They hit the ground running, pulse rifles firing. In orbit, the Valiant went after enemy troop transports. Target their landing craft, Alex ordered. One by one, enemy transports were shot down before they could land more soldiers. Explosions lit the sky. Dravak commanders screamed for retreats, but Earth ships cut off escape routes. Admiral Reyes gave a cold command. No mercy. One by one, Dravak ships fell. On the ground, Sergeant Keller and his men cheered as Earth Marines arrived. Keller laughed, out of breath. About damn time. Ramos helped lift wounded civilians. Medical shuttles landed, pulling people to safety. Terra's voice came over the long-range comms from Valora Prime. Sergeant Ramos, are you safe? Ramos smiled through the dirt and sweat, still standing. After hours of brutal fighting, the Dravak forces on Epsilon Eridani II broke. The survivors fled back to their remaining ships, jumping out of the system. The fleet didn't chase this time. They stayed to help the colony. Rebuild. Heal. General Carter stood on the surface, looking at the destroyed town square. How many more times will this happen? Reyes asked quietly. Carter stayed silent for a long time. Then he said, as many times as it takes, until the Dravak learn Earth doesn't break. In the Dravak High Command, the warlord watched the defeat reports. His eyes burned with hate. They pushed us back again. His voice dropped to a growl. Then we'll escalate. Plans for the next Dravik move started that night, but Earth was already preparing for what came next, because now this wasn't just defense anymore. This was war. The smell of smoke still hung in the air over Epsilon Eridani to Earth. Marines worked side by side with colony survivors. Wounded civilians were loaded onto medical shuttles. Earth engineers began repairs on the shattered defense stations. But above all in orbit, something bigger was happening. Inside the TDS Vengeance, General Carter stood before the main strategy table. Admiral Reyes and other senior officers gathered around. A large star map hovered in the air, showing Dravik space. This stops now, Carter said. We've been reacting for too long, letting them hit first. Now, it's our turn. Reyes crossed her arms. You want to invade their core worlds? Carter nodded. They hit our colony, hurt our people. If we don't strike deep, they'll just rebuild and hit us again. Commander Alex Mercer stood with other ship captains in the fleet briefing room. He studied the plan. We've never gone this deep into Dravik space, Alex said. Another captain added, no human fleet has. Harper pulled up threat analysis on the screen. Their core worlds are surrounded by at least 3 defensive fleet rings. Heavy minefields. Planetary defense cannons. Alex grinned. Sounds like a challenge. The room chuckled. But they all knew this wasn't going to be easy. Back at Earth Defense Command, political leaders debated. Some argued against escalation. Others demanded revenge, but Carter didn't wait. Using emergency powers, he ordered full fleet deployment. Earth shipyards worked around the clock. New ships finished construction. Reserve units were called up. Weapons factories produced more railgun shells, missiles, and fighter drones. On every Terran colony, young recruits signed up for the fight. They'd seen the news. They'd seen what the Dravik did at Epsilon Eridani too. Now, they wanted payback. On Valora Prime, Governor Levick spoke to his people. He looked at Terra and the others gathered in the city square. Today, the humans prepare to strike deep into Dravik space, he said. We owe them everything. The Valorans cheered. Many young Valorans even volunteered to help the human effort. Tyr, holding a repaired tablet, sent one final message to Sergeant Ramos. Good luck, make them pay. Inside the TDS Vengeance, Carter and Reyes finalized the invasion plan. We hit their main shipyard first, Reyes said. Without it, they can't build more warships. Carter nodded then. Their communication relay planets cut their ability to coordinate. The third target was the most dangerous. Their homeworld defense fleet, Carter said. We'll force them into open battle. The entire Iron Shield Armada prepared. Fleet groups formed attack waves. Special forces, teams trained for boarding missions. Marines checked and rechecked their equipment. Inside the Valiant, Alex gave a speech to his crew. We've come this far. Some of us won't make it back. But I'll tell you this. He paused. The Dravik started this war. We're going to end it. His crew roared in agreement. The invasion fleet left orbit. Earth ships, hundreds strong, jumped into hyperspace. The largest human military force ever assembled for an offensive. As they traveled, soldiers wrote messages to family. Pilots checked their wings for the last time. Marines loaded their gear. Inside the hangars, boarding pods were prepped for high-risk missions. The mood across the fleet was tense, but focused. They all knew the risks, but they also knew something else. This was for every colony attacked, for every civilian killed, for every child dragged from their home. Inside Dravik space, enemy sensors picked up the approaching fleet. The Dravak warlord stood before his war council. This is it, he growled. The Deathworlders are coming to us. The room filled with angry shouts and battle cries. The warlord smiled, full of hate. Good, let them come. He pointed at the star map. When they arrive, we will crush them. Dravik ships moved into formation. Planetary defense cannons powered up. Minefields were armed. The largest Dravik fleet ever assembled waited near their homeworld. The warlord stared into space. Let's see if the humans have the stomach for this fight. But what the warlord didn't know, Earth's fleet had a secret plan. A deep strike team. A group of Earth's best Marines. Their mission: slip past enemy lines, land directly on the Dravik homeworld, and sabotage the main planetary shield generator. Without that shield, Earth's fleet could hit the surface. Sergeant Ramos, now leading the special strike unit, smiled as he checked his gear. Let's make history. As the invasion fleet approached Dravik space, the final message from General Carter played across every ship. To all Terran forces, this is more than a battle. This is a message. He paused. We are humanity. We protect our people, and when we fight to win. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace, right at the edge of the Dravik core worlds. Alarms sounded. Enemy fleets moved to intercept. Weapons powered up on both sides. The stars lit with fire once more. The battle for the Dravik homeworld had begun. The blackness of space lit up with fire. Earth's fleet arrived at the edge of the Dravik homeworld. Hundreds of Terran warships formed battle lines. Railguns charged. Missile silos opened. Fighter wings launched across the Dravik defense line. Thousands of enemy warships moved into position. The Dravik warlord stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the incoming human fleet. "So they really came," he growled. "Then let them die." Inside the TDS Vengeance, Admiral Reyes gave the order: all ships, weapons free. The first volley from Earth's fleet tore through space. Railgun slugs, plasma beams, guided torpedoes. The Dravuk fired back. Enemy plasma cannons blasted toward Earth's ships. Several Terran destroyers took direct hits, shields failing, hulls breaking apart. But the fleet didn't slow. The Valiant, leading one of the spearhead groups, charged through enemy lines. Commander Alex Mercer stood firm on the bridge. "Target enemy cruisers on the left flank," he shouted. Lieutenant Harper responded quickly. "Yes, sir." Firing now. Bright energy beams ripped into the enemy formation. 2 Dravik cruisers exploded. Earth fighter squadrons dove between enemy capital ships. Dogfights lit the space between. The fleet's missiles chased fighters. Laser flak filled the air. Inside his fighter, Lieutenant Vega twisted through enemy fire, blasting Dravik drones out of the sky. On board the Vengeance, General Carter monitored the front line. "How's our strike team?" he asked. Reyes checked the comms. "Sergeant Ramos and his Marines have launched. They're heading for the surface now." Carter nodded. Double quotes. "Good. They're our only chance to drop that shield." Without disabling the Dravik planetary shield generator, Earth's fleet couldn't target the surface. The Dravik homeworld remained protected, for now, but the strike team was already on the way in a small, fast stealth shuttle. Ramos and his squad punched through the atmosphere. Enemy anti-air fire chased them. One burst of plasma missed their rear engine by inches. Inside the dropship, Ramos checked his gear. "Once we land, no stopping," he said. The Marines nodded. Weapons loaded. Grenades ready. Their mission: land deep behind enemy lines, reach the shield control center, and shut it down. Meanwhile, in orbit, Earth's ships fought to hold the line. More of Dravik reinforcements arrived. New enemy cruisers jumped in. Earth's destroyers began to take more hits. One Earth carrier took a critical blow, bursting into a fireball on the Valiant. Alex clenched his jaw. "Keep pushing," he yelled. "Reposition to cover the left flank." Harper shouted back, "Shields at 40%, sir." "Engineering reports damage to the aft engines." Alex didn't blink. "We're not backing down." The Valiant stayed in the fight. Firing, dodging, taking hits, firing again. On the ground, Ramos and his team crash-landed near the target zone. The shuttle skidded across rocky terrain, throwing up dirt and fire. Marines kicked the side hatch open and stormed out. Dravik ground soldiers spotted them instantly. Gunfire erupted. Ramos and his team moved fast, using rocks and craters as cover. Pulse rifles answered enemy shots. Grenades cleared enemy bunkers. "Move, move," Ramos shouted. Enemy drones swarmed from the sky, but Earth Marines took them down with portable anti-air launchers. Finally, after 20 minutes of brutal fighting, Ramos and 3 surviving Marines reached the exterior of the shield control center. Heavy Dravik turrets guarded the entrance. Ramos pulled out the last remaining missile launcher. "Knock knock," he fired. The turret exploded. The Marines rushed inside in orbit. General Carter received the update. "Strike team is inside the shield generator building," an officer reported. Reyes smiled slightly. "We just need a little more time." Carter turned back to the fleet. "Comes. All ships, hold the line at all costs." The battle raged. More Earth ships took damage. The TDS Vengeance lost its starboard weapons array. The Valiant's main engines caught fire, forcing engineering teams to work in full emergency mode. But still, the human fleet stayed in the fight. Admiral Reyes gave the next command: "All remaining bombers, prepare for low orbit strike as soon as that shield drops." Inside the shield generator facility, Ramos and his team fought hallway by hallway. Dravik soldiers poured in from every direction. Energy blasts filled the air. Corporal Diaz took a hit, falling beside the control console. Ramos reached the control panel. Bleeding from his shoulder, he pulled out an override device, slammed it onto the console. Lights flickered, sirens blared. The entire planet-wide shield dropped. In orbit, The human fleet saw it. Shield down. An officer shouted. Admiral Reyes didn't hesitate. All ships open planetary fire. Hit their military centers. Target their command hubs. No mercy. Hundreds of Earth warships shifted their weapons. Missiles. Orbital cannons. High-powered railguns. They unleashed hell on the Dravak homeworld. Enemy command centers exploded. Dravak anti-air defenses were wiped out. Factories burned. The Warlord's palace took a direct hit, part of it crumbling into dust. On the Valiant, Alex Mercer watched the explosions from orbit. Harper spoke, voice full of disbelief. We're doing it. We're actually doing it. Alex just nodded. About time. Back on the surface, Ramos dragged his wounded Marine outside. Dropships began landing nearby. More Earth Marines poured out. The ground invasion had started. Earth soldiers stormed Dravik positions. Civilians fled in panic, but Earth wasn't there for their civilians. They had one goal: end the Dravik war machine in orbit. Dravik fleet remnants began to retreat. Their ships jumped away, fleeing deep into uncharted space. General Carter stood at the front of the TDS Vengeance, watching. We've broken them, he said. Admiral Reyes nodded. At least for now. But both knew the war wasn't fully over yet. Not until the Dravik leaders surrendered, or were gone for good. The first Terran flag was raised on Dravik soil later that day. Earth had done the impossible. The galaxy was watching. And humanity had proven when pushed too far, they don't just fight back, they come for you and they don't stop. Smoke rose from the Dravik homeworld. Entire cities burned. Military factories lay in ruins. Communication hubs were silent. The once powerful Dravik fleet shattered, but deep underground, the Warlord still lived, inside a hidden bunker, surrounded by loyal guards. He stared at the holoscreen showing the destruction above. Bring me their leaders, he growled. I want their heads. His commanders stayed silent. Fear filled the room. On the surface, Earth Marines advanced. Sergeant Ramos led his team through the broken streets of the Dravak capital. Enemy snipers fired from rooftops. Dr. ABOK troops fought from behind rubble and collapsed walls, but Earth soldiers moved with deadly skill, clearing building after building. Covering each other, pushing forward. Inside the TDS Vengeance, General Carter and Admiral Reyes coordinated the final assault. The Warlord is still down there, Carter said. Reyes nodded. Double quotes. Our ground teams are closing in. All right, Carter said. Let's end this. The Valiant, still battle-scarred but operational, provided close air support. Commander Alex Mercer stood on the bridge. Target enemy strongpoints near bunker entrances, he ordered. Harper replied, yes sir, locking targets now. Orbital strikes blasted key enemy defenses. In the field, Ramos's unit pushed toward the bunker entrance. Heavy plasma fire pinned them down. We need air support, Ramos shouted. The Valiant answered. A missile strike smashed the enemy gun positions. Ramos's squad moved fast. Explosives planted on the bunker doors. Fire in the hole. The door blew inward. Earth Marines stormed inside. Inside the bunker, the Warlord grabbed a massive plasma axe. If I fall, I'll take them with me, he snarled. Earth Marines poured into the control room. Blasters fired. Smoke filled the air. Ramos charged forward, firing at close range. The Warlord roared, swinging his weapon. Ramos dove, rolled, and fired 3 shots into the enemy leader's chest. The Warlord stumbled, growled one last curse, then fell. Silence filled the room. Ramos stood, breathing hard. It's done, he said into his com. On the TDS Vengeance, Carter got the report. The Warlord is down, Reyes confirmed. Carter let out a long breath. All units cease planetary bombardment. Begin securing enemy facilities, and prep for surrender negotiations. Across the Dravik homeworld, remaining enemy soldiers threw down their weapons. Dravik civilians emerged from shelters, staring at human troops with fear and confusion. Earth Marines didn't harm them. Medical teams arrived to help wounded. Both human and Dravik Earth engineers began disabling what was left of enemy weapon systems. The war, for now, was over. Days later, on the Dravik homeworld, a formal surrender ceremony took place. General Carter stood on a makeshift platform, with Admiral Reyes, Commander Mercer, and Sergeant Ramos beside him. Dravik generals, stripped of rank, signed the surrender documents. Carter spoke loudly, for every human soldier to hear. We came here because we had no choice. You attacked us. You attacked our people, we answered. He paused, looking over the battlefield. Let this be a lesson to the Draviks and to any who might try the same in the future. Back on Valora Prime, news of the victory spread fast. TIR stood in the city square, watching the broadcast on a large screen. When she saw Ramos on the screen, alive, she smiled with tears in her eyes. Governor Levesque raised a glass in a small local celebration. To humanity, he said. To the Death Worlders who saved us. On Epsilon Eridani too. Rebuilding began. Earth engineers repaired homes, civilians returned from shelters, new defense stations were built in orbit. Humanity wasn't going to be caught off guard again. On board the Valiant, Alex Mercer stood on the observation deck. Harper joined him, sir. They're calling this the largest human victory since first contact. Alex smiled slightly. We'll see how long the peace lasts. Harper laughed. For now, we won. Alex nodded. For now. Inside the TDS Vengeance, Carter and Reyes discussed the future. Earth Council wants us home, Reyes said. Good, Carter replied. Our people deserve a break. But deep down, both knew. Somewhere, in the dark corners of the galaxy, new enemies watched. New threats waited. But next time, humanity would be ready. Because now, the galaxy knew something very important. If you threaten Earth, if you attack humanity, the response is always the same. Warships. Marines. And the full fury of a Death World species.